Welcome to the Autism in Black podcast, where we focus on all things autism and the Black parent experience. Our goal is to always educate, support, and empower parents to advocate for not only their children, but themselves. I'm Maria Davis-Pierre, a licensed mental health counselor in the state of Florida and America's #1 autism advocate for Black parents. I'm the founder and CEO of Autism in Black Inc., where we aim to include the excluded.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Autism in Black podcast. I am your host, Maria Davis-Pierre, licensed mental health counselor and the CEO and founder of Autism in Black, Inc. Today, I am here with Cheryl Poe, who is the founder and executive director of Advocating for Kids, Inc., which is a special education advocacy organization dedicated to empowering parents and professionals, especially those supporting Black and Brown children with disabilities, through resources, information, and workshops. With a master's degree in urban education and counseling and extensive postgraduate studies in psychology, Mrs. Poe brings a wealth of expertise. So let's dive into today's episode. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Autism in Black podcast. We are here with a very special guest. I believe this guest is in competition with Dr. Barry for being the most the most viewed guest, the most guest on the podcast. So today we have Cheryl Poe. Hi, Cheryl. Thank you for
Hi. So I'm up there with good company, huh?
You are. I think
You know I'm competitive, so now I got something. Now that I know.
This one might bring you over. This one might bring you over, and you might be in the running this time. Okay. So for those who don't know who you are, this is their first time coming into contact with you. I want to start with asking you what brought you into this work and what keeps you rooted in it.
Well, as what I've noticed about at least our community, when I say everybody listening, when I reference our community, I'm talking about the Black neurodivergent community, right? That's Black families, Black parents, Black advocates, whomever. That's what I mean. But what I've noticed in our community is that we've had our own personal journeys that have led us to this work. This isn't the kind of work that you kind of grow up and be like, oh yeah, I want to go to school to be an advocate, right? It's not that kind of job. It is something that you're thrown into, as you well know, based on life circumstances. And I'm going to advocate and protect my children. So I had an experience that let me know that the intersectionality of racism and ableism really interact. And the racism I think, it works as a gatekeeper against Black people getting the services that they need for their children to be successful in school. So that's what started. It started out of a necessity based on how I experienced a Virginia public school, when I was trying to get services for my own child. And the blatant racism that I faced, not only verbally, but then after being verbally, told that my Blackness was the cause of the disability, the other barriers that continued to exist around getting help, support, information, resources that were relevant to me, to our community, was hard to come by. So I did it because of the trauma. I continue to do it as part of the healing process. That's how I see it.
I love that. I love how you reframed that. And you mentioned some of this double burden that I want to get into, because we know that Black autistic children or Black children with a disability face the compounded harm from racism and ableism. What does that double burden look like in schools and systems, especially when it comes to the diagnosis and the discipline?
That's a great question. So, first, when it comes to the diagnosis, Black children are more likely to be viewed as emotionally disturbed, that behaviors that are definitely affiliated with or characteristics of autism are viewed in Black children as defiant, as being emotionally disturbed. And that comes from that white lens that is within the system of our public schools, special education services, and our communities, our disability communities that are supposed to be helping us, is that Black children are just better. The idea of, and something that you talk a lot about on your platform, is that adultification of Black children. You know, the idea that a 5-year-old Black little girl is supposed to have this maturity and ability to regulate her emotions, when this other student is impeding on either her space, or touching on a sensory need, or she's the child, or my client, is experiencing something that is very true of who their makeup is as an autistic student, but they're being penalized for that, versus our white counterparts that are still, on the spectrum at times, but get grace, they're trying to just regulate, or they need better regulation skills, or they need sensory supports, or they need OT, or they need speech, or they need that AC device, or we'll make sure they get ESY, we'll make sure, that, they can get some psych services, like all these wonderful services. Let's get that FBA done. Let's have that BIP. We have an ABA. You can come in and do an observation. That's what I witness, the difference. And that's a barrier for us. The barrier is the system not recognizing that our children need the supports to be successful in school, but instead falling on racist, anti-Blackness lenses about our children, and instead funneling them into a false diagnosis of emotional disturbance, failing to recognize that they need additional related services, supports, in treating the family members, the parents, and those are going to those, the parents, the grandmoms, the daddies, going into the IEP meetings like crap, gaslighting them, and so those are some real barriers, and there's even more, but those are some of the main ones that I witness almost every day when I go into an IEP meeting where I'm representing a Black family. I see those things.
And we've had the conversation before. I despise that EBD category. I think it's just a waste of time and space, especially for Black children, because it's not utilized in the way that it should be. It's utilized as a school to prison pipeline for our children, and it's just one of my triggers. One of my triggers, but I mean, in talking about this discipline, I know I told you about the case I had of my client who's a preschooler, and he was suspended for a half day for another student who was actually bothering him. And when the mother went to talk to the principal said, "Oh, but the other student is just a child," as if her baby wasn't just a child as well, both 4-year-old students, but her child was adultified. Her child was looked at as he should know better, while the other child was given grace. And that schools pathologize Black children's behaviors
all the time.
all
And
the
their parents too, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So how do you guide parents to reframe their child's needs in a way that demands support instead of punishment?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I do when I'm there in those meetings, because I address that head on. I say the words in the meeting. You are adultifying this Black neurodivergent child in a way you wouldn't do it if they were white, and I need you to stop. And let me give you an example of what I mean. I had a situation just Friday, like, where the same thing, elementary age little girl on the spectrum, Black, and the mom got a call or an email, got a call the day before, right, saying, "Oh, your child was pushed another student, and now that other student wants a bully investigation. And we looked at the tape and we saw her push. So, so me and the mom are like, wait a minute, do we know what happened beforehand? What is the, what was the antecedents? What are all the things that led up to this? Because in our current climate, we need to know, right? We need to know, is this a black on white thing where maybe somebody called her a racial slur? And if that's the case, then who's the real bully? Was did this other child put hands on my client first, which my client automatically responded like that? We had none of that information. So, in situations like that, one of the things that parents you need to do, you need to not accept what they tell you. Just don't accept it because they say it, that it's the truth. And what you need to do is you need to probe, and you need to say, hold up, I'm not accepting this. This is incomplete information. I need to see the video. I need to know what happened beforehand. I need to know, is there been a history of conflict between these two? Because if so, then it's peer conflict. It's peer on peer conflict. It's not just, our Black neurodivergent student bullying someone. No, she's protecting herself. And come to find out, when the parent did do that, all of that was true. The other girl had put hands on her first. They had been in a peer-to-peer conflict. They've been beefing like for 30 days. Everybody knew it and did nothing about it. So the lens, even when our children are not the ones that are the aggressors, who have not engaged in the actual behavior that they're accusing them in. That happens more than I'd like to admit that I see when I'm on my cases and I'm telling parents, well, let's follow up on this and figure it out. I got another case I had this year. Middle school kid has an excuse not to be in PE because of an injury. Kid somehow is forced to go to PE anyway, engages in the behavior. They want to suspend him for 10 days and make a recommendation for the alternative placement. I'm like, did you not get the doctor's note that said he shouldn't be here anyway? So the parent appealed it, showed him the doctor's note. They sent back a letter saying, oh yeah, you're correct. He shouldn't have been in that class in the first place. We found the doctor's note.
You found the
Again,
doctor's note? You found the doctor's note?
that you misplaced. Yes. So we constantly, Maria, in this field and this community, those listening to this, have to appeal, have to question. Do not assume because they tell you something that it's the truth. And darn sure don't believe because it's a Black person delivering it that it's the truth. Because in our educational system, we have more Black folks that may be our skin folk, but they are not our kin folk. They are part of the system. They view our children harshly because they're conditioned to think that that's the way you survive and make progress in the educational system, is believing the false myths and perpetuating those false myths against somebody that might be your grandbaby, your niece, your nephew, your cousin, or your own child.
And I'm glad you bring that up. As we know, my daughter has one more year in middle school, and then I'm going to sit on this podcast and tell y'all all these stories about these skin folk who are not kin folk. Once she gets out, I got to make sure she gets out of there. But Cheryl knows the stories.
That's why I'm laughing so hard.
And I am going to sit up here and I'm going to tell y'all.
You gonna tell it all?
I'm going to tell it. I am going to tell it all because I think that is such a myth that we think when we go into environment where it's us, we're like, oh, okay, there's going to be some safety here. They're going to be, sometimes they just is worse, if not worser, if that's a worser. Okay, because I have been going through it. So thank you for bringing
that is unfortunately that tends to be the case, and I see it in the education system a lot, like a lot. That myth of, oh, if we just have more Black educators in our system, or if we just have more Black principals, then we'll reduce the school to prison pipeline. Grades will get better for Black folks. That's not the truth. And let's be clear as to why. Teachers don't have that kind of power. Let's just state it. A
Mhm.
teacher, a Black teacher, any teacher could walk into a system and really want to do good work, but they are in a system that requires them to do, act, say, and perform in a certain way. And if they go outside that way, that norm, that societal or norm of what education should be, then they're ostracized. They don't get the support, then they get burnt out and they leave, right? So, I mean, that's the vicious circle. Now, the ones that are good at the game of perpetuating the racism, the white
Mhm.
supremacist views of public education against our Black students, those who have no idea about disability, that are just, complete ableist
Mhm.
overall, those are
Mhm.
the ones that thrive in the system, right? It's
They
kind
do.
of scary. I mean,
It
well,
is.
no, the system's designed to do what it's supposed to do.
It
Let's be
is.
clear.
But it is
And we
still
just need to be
scary.
honest about it.
Yeah, but it is still scary because we are always taught to really trust the school system, trust our children
Yeah,
with
been through it.
the staff, and we feel like, oh, they're gonna have the best interest at heart. And then you really realize that, oh, I'm really gonna be doing a lot of work as long as my child is in this system. I'm going to be doing a lot of advocating and ensuring that things are going as they need to go. So,
And spending money and spending
whew,
time.
mm,
It is a factor if you want your child to receive appropriate services, and whether you're spending the money on tutoring to supplement the crappy instruction that your child's getting because they're not designing it individually for your child, or you have a great IEP on paper but they're not implementing with fidelity. So you can have a good IEP written, but if they're not implementing that, if you're not checking those progress reports every 4.5 weeks and comparing the work that they're claiming the child's doing versus what they're reporting, then you don't know what they're actually working on because you're not there. So it could be an expensive where you're supplementing learning because they're not implementing the services appropriately, or it could be expensive because you need to get your own evaluation because they didn't do a good evaluation or they refused to evaluate, or you have to hire an advocate to help come in there and make sure they're doing the right thing, or you have to hire an attorney, or you have to buy supplementary aids and supports that the school should be buying anyway to help your child be able to be successful in school. Parents going out and getting their own ACC devices,
mhm,
getting their own sensory tools for the child just so they can be successful in a school, in an environment that hasn't been modified for them.
that's
So, I mean, it is tough. It is, even like, even if you think, oh, I'll read a book. It's an expense to find a good book to tell you what it is you need to know. Right? You can get a lot of information on some of
you
these
get a
free
lot of
podcasts, but
it.
still, eventually, you're gonna have to spend some money.
You're gonna have to invest, and
Yes,
that's really what it is. And
it's what it is.
it is what it is. The unfortunate truth, but it is what it is.
And now at least you have people that look like you doing it, right? Because
Mhm.
before, all of that was just very white centered, and it still is. I'm not saying that
So,
it's not, right?
yeah. Hmm.
But we, as a Black community within the neurodivergent world, we are starting to show up more. There are more opportunities for us to
Yeah.
share what our experiences are like. And, we have that through Autism in Black. I do that
Mhm.
in advocating for kids. And, there are other very good, credible Black advocates that are out there doing this work from a neural affirming lens and also understanding that intersectionality. Because I'm sorry, if you are Black, if you are a non-white person, and you don't agree that an intersectionality exists, you are missing a key component of
Mhm.
what your child needs to be successful, not even just in school, but in life.
In life. In life.
If you can't go around pretending you're not Black when the
Exactly.
world sees you as a Black
See it,
male or female with a
see it for
disability.
5, 10, 15 feet away. They're going to see that I'm
They see
Black.
that, they may see your Blackness before your disability.
Exactly. I mean, and with me, that's what you're going to see with my kids. You're going to see the Blackness first. You're not even going to think disability because you're going to think that their behaviors are just inherently bad because they're
Ex-
Black children. And that's
exactly.
what it's going to happen. So when you do not recognize how our Blackness is a means for people to be racist, is a
Mhm.
means for people to push us on the school to prison pipeline, is a means for them to justify what they're doing to us, then you probably just need to get out the game
Yeah.
completely. Because
Yeah.
you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong.
And you're causing harm because if you don't have those beliefs and you're working with non-white
Yeah,
families, you are missing one aspect of who they are.
exactly. And it's
Um,
a big piece of how the society views us.
yes,
That
right,
while I can view my Blackness, my womanhood, and my disability, society is really looking at my Blackness and then my womanhood secondary, and then they'll get to the disability.
right,
But they're seeing that Blackness
right.
first.
And then they're like, oh shit, she got disability too. Right? What else?
Would you bring me to my next point? Like many advocacy spaces still tokenize rather than center Black autistic voices, Black disabled voices.
Yeah.
What does real inclusion look like? And what are your suggestions on how we build it? We have this conversation a lot.
Well, the tokenism, I mean, I have to, it is the system in our society almost, and I'm going to talk my experience about tokenism because
Mhm.
I was a token. I probably, like you use the word tokenism. I'm going to use the word that I felt I had to assimilate into the white spaces, to the white community, to the whiteness
Mhm.
in sped ed to be seen as a credible advocate, right? So to be seen and viewed, I always attached in order to be, for them to realize I'm doing this work. I'm authentic about this work. The work that I do is valuable. I know my shit when it comes to sped ed, right? I can do it. But I felt like in order for, even though I had all those skills as just a Black person, I also felt that in order to be accepted, I had to be accepted in the white community, into the white disability space to become credible. I did. I believe that. That is a mindset that I think my generation, being raised in the 70s, right? That your that generational switch of what's happening in race, and you believe, oh, if I assimilate, then I'll just be okay because I'll have the degree, I'll be able to talk like them, I'll be able to interact with them in the way that makes them feel comfortable. Unfortunately, that was what I was raised to believe in, and I no longer believe in that, and it took a lot. It took this work, you all. It really did. It took the work of advocating for my own children who had disabilities, who were going through some stuff, to realize that was a mindset that I had that was wrong and that harmed me, I believe. And it probably harmed other people. So what I've learned is, instead of believing and that we need them, we need white people to validate the value of our work, and the disability no longer exists for me. And I had to go through several stages of that. I had to learn that lesson over and over and over again. And that lesson keeps coming back. It's something that keeps coming and challenging me with standing my ground and saying that there are enough Black advocates out here. There are enough Black families out here that want this information. There are enough Black OTs, speech pathologists. There are Black sped ed attorney. There are enough of us that look like us doing this work, and centering our work around the needs of our community is what's been missing. So instead of trying to fit into, or being tokened, or even freaking inclusion. We don't need that inclusion anymore. We just need to honor our own spaces, continue to create our own spaces, continue to believe in our own spaces. Because tokenism, or forcing ourselves to be included in white spaces in the disability justice or the disability community, has gotten us nothing, nothing at all. We've been told to be quiet and sit down.
Deal with
Colorblindness, this
it.
bullshit colorblindness belief
Blue purple
system that,
people.
yeah, this, oh, we all have disabilities, our race, it doesn't matter. Bullshit. Race always matters. And
Always.
then on my page, because you talk about it all the time, because the racists love my page. They love coming to my page and just saying some crazy stuff. And one of the pieces that I always find interesting about that is, do you go to white pages when you don't see Black people represented and say the same things?
And we know the answer to that.
Is no. And then when Black people do that, because I'll do that,
Yeah.
then I'm the person, I'm causing the diversion. I'm the issue. If I say to Autism Speaks, hey, where were you? Why weren't you speaking up for that Black 5-year-old autistic child that was called the N-word by that white woman that made $90? I mean, almost $1 million. When I call them out on not doing anything, then people want to say I'm bad. When I
Exactly.
call out other organizations, so-called civil rights disability organizations who remained quiet around that, then I'm the bad guy. No, I'm not the bad guy. I'm the one that is saying to you all, I see you. I want to make sure my community knows I see you. And I want to make sure that the community is aware that when we needed you to speak up for Black kids that had disabilities that were harmed, you were quiet.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't tell us that you're a true civil rights organization if you only rally around white people that have disabilities and ignore the fact that there are non-white people that are being harmed in the community with disabilities, but you remain silent.
Exactly.
So I don't know if I answered your question.
You did. You answered it. And thank you for being so transparent because, a lot of times people do not like to tell their truth about how they've had to grow and change
Mhm.
and see things differently, how
Yeah.
they may have perpetuated harm themselves, intentionally or unintentionally, just because of how society has us, right? So thank
Right.
you
Yeah.
for transparency.
Thank you. Oh, that's because I feel safe with you. Because of spaces like this, if we don't have these kind of real and authentic conversations, the work that you do, the space that you've created for not just families, but for other advocates and speakers and just other people doing this work, it allows us to find and be more confident in our voice because we know, oh, look, she's doing it too. So if she's doing it, then guess what? Yay, I got a partner in crime to do it with me. Oh, look, they're doing it over there. Oh, look, Destiny. Oh, look, she's talking about that too. Good, we got another one. Oh, look. And I think that's how you start a revolution, right? You make space for people to be able to have these authentic conversations that white people don't want us to have
They don't. They
and then
don't.
feel safe doing it. So, thank you for creating a space to have this kind of conversation.
Thank you. As we wrap up, what is one message you want to leave with Black parents who are just stepping into advocacy?
Okay, trust your gut. If you feel down deep in your gut something's not right, it is absolutely telling you what that is your truth. That is the truth. Don't ignore that. Trust your baby. If your child is coming home and they are telling you that their teacher is mean or they're telling you things that concern you that are happening at school, believe them and
Mhm.
investigate it. I'm not saying you have to go up there and act a fool, but I am saying you need to go up there and have a meeting with someone and say, I need to understand this. What is going on? Why does my child feel like that this is an experience that they're having? What are you doing to cause them to feel like this experience? And I don't like them feeling like this. So what can we do to change this? Because this isn't right. This isn't good. This isn't healthy. And we need to work together to fix this. I'm giving you an opportunity. In fact, parents, every time you go in there and you make an attempt to work and collaborate with them, you are giving them an opportunity to do the right thing. Know that, because you always have other choices. If your child has an IEP or a 504, you have access to dispute resolution. You can file complaints against your school district. So that's what I mean when I said you're giving them the opportunity to fix it first, because you could go to your state ed, or you can find an advocate like myself, or find an attorney and file complaints against them. The other thing is, my biggest thing, this is, if I could tell anybody who's listening that's a parent, check your child's book bag, check their pocketbooks, check their pockets, just check everything before you send them to school, because zero tolerance is real. It is worse when you're Black and your child has a disability. And if they accidentally have a cough drop or Tums or Tylenol or Pamprin, or even any little, like maybe little tool that they use for arts and crafts at home, and they accidentally bring it into the school district can and will and has policies that say that those kinds of things, even though they're over the counter meds, are drugs, and that they can make recommendations for expulsion for your child. Same thing with like some kind of tool or something that they may use to play with that is innocent but may have a sharp end. They can consider that a weapon and suspend your child. And if your child is Black and disabled, yes, you have an opportunity for a manifestation determination meeting. But when it comes to things that they code in discipline as drugs or weapons, it is extremely hard to get over that hurdle. So just check their pockets. I can't tell you how many cases I've had of stupidness. My Tums and Tylenol case. By the
Ugh.
time that case was done, that parent had to get the child drug tested, proof she was not on any drugs, right? She had travel size Tums and Tylenol, but they still wanted to suspend, make a recommendation for expulsion, and trying to send the child into an alternative school for some damn Tums and Tylenol. So this
And
stuff is
wanted
real.
her to get substance use counseling. Nobody
Yes,
is
yes,
doing counseling with somebody on Tylenol and Tums. Like that's just not,
in Tums.
that's just ridiculous. Like what
Yep,
what are we talking about in there on Tylenol and Tums?
yes,
Like
yep. Just stop it. Just stop that madness. And the nurse was crazy. I filed that on that particular distance because the nurse, she knew it was wrong. She knew it was wrong. She had no evidence, even in the paperwork. She's like, there's no evidence of this person being under any kind of intoxication of anything, but still let that go through. I filed a complaint on her license because you're a nurse. You have an oath to tell
yes.
the truth. You have an oath to provide medical support to our kids in our schools, not to lie for administration, and that those are the kinds of things that are happening. So that, check their pockets. And then the last biggest one is, even if you have to go to your child's IEP, I don't care if it's the last day of school, when it is for you, you need to have a statement that says in the IEP, your child is not allowed to make any statements to police, resource officers, or administration about any discipline unless you as a parent are there physically or on the phone.
Mhm.
We do not let your child talk to the resource officers. They are police. They will treat your child like a criminal. Maria, there's a disturbing case that I know of here in Virginia Beach where, a young middle school kid, a girl inappropriately sent him some inappropriate pictures. He didn't even know what they were, didn't pay any attention, kind of sent it to his friends, said ill. Got back to school, the girl found out about it, was upset, was talking about it. Sister principal pulls this Black boy into a room with a police resource officer sitting behind him. Starts saying, "Oh, I heard you had some pictures." The boy's like, "Yeah, so and so sent me pictures," just thinking he was having a conversation. The principal says, "Can I see your phone?" Because the pictures were still on the phone. Kid says, "Of course." Principal takes it. Police officer has an evidence bag, red tea, drops the phone in the evidence bag, gets the kid for what is it, for sharing child
Um,
porn?
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know the right
I
words
get
for it,
the term, but
but
yeah,
yeah, he was charged for that. So the parents had to fight this. I mean, literally hire a big behind attorney. We're talking them 20, 30, $40,000 attorneys to fight this. So don't make statements. Don't allow your child to make a statement unless you are there. And even then, you might not want them to make the statement until you're able to talk to your child yourself, especially if we're talking about a child with a disability. They may have processing issues and not even understanding what's being asked of them. They may be asking them to write it. Look, the child that doesn't have the writing skills to write it, and then you got like somebody dictating and telling them what to say. No, you don't want any of that. Protect your baby, protect your baby, protect your baby. Don't let them make a statement. Put that in writing. Send a note to the school. Put it on the IEP. I don't care what you do, but just protect your child.
I actually also have it with the guidance counselor as well. Like, you will not
Excellent.
talk about anything outside of classwork, grades, or whatever, anything else that requires a deepening conversation. I need to be present, because we had a
Yep.
bad experience with the guidance counselor, and I was like, okay, you're speaking out of your realm now, because
Right.
you are
Yep.
not a therapist.
Exactly.
You're not a
Exactly.
therapist. So let's not do that. So that I even have it there, just to protect, because that conversation could have went completely
Mm-hmm.
left field for our son. So that let me know, okay, we gotta put
Cannot.
around this, because I can't even
Yes.
have you being sent to the guidance counselor's office for this.
Right. Good
So
point. Very good point. Yeah.
thank you for that. So where can the people find you? Where can they go to get some advocating for kids information?
Yes, please visit our website, and we are just super excited. And our website is, of course, www, right? Dot all the W's, right? And then it's A as in Apple, D as in David, V as in Victor, the number 4. Then it's kidsinc.org. And go to our page and you can find out about all the different kinds of services that we provide. You can sign up for a free 15-minute consultation. You can make some donations to help ensure that families that can't afford our support or services at this time, that they can still access at least some of the resources that we have and some of the events that we have. We're really excited, guys, that we are in the process of developing our community. It's going to be a great space, judgment free, for you guys just to come in and vent and just be and just know that it's not for anybody to judge you about what you're saying, but an opportunity for you to get that stuff out, and then for us to then help you restructure that, right? It'll be very diverse. It'll be very centered around the needs of the Black community. And if you would like to sign up for that now, you can join our wait list. You can go ahead and put your name on the wait list. And as soon as that opens up, you will be entered into that. Part of that is our Advocating While Black project. We are in the process of just analyzing the data. So we'll be sharing some of that information in the community. We're going to be doing a training in the community. And we are actually, Maria, this is new. We're actually calling this part of our service, we're giving it a different name, and it's going to be called the cultural advocacy community, because the idea of this community is around the needs of our culture and understanding that when you are advocating for Black and Brown children, there are some certain things you need to really be paying attention to. And so it's also good from that perspective for, white families or white people that are working with Black families, so that you can stop causing harm to us. You can really kind of understand what our needs are. When you're advocating for us, you can hear what it is that our families are saying we really need you to pay attention to. Because I don't know of any other resource that kind of would have them look at that, like have them paying attention to, is this adultification happening with this child? And if so, how do I address this? Right. So yeah, we're just real excited.
Good. So all of that will be in the show notes for everybody. Cheryl, thank you so much for this informative and amazing conversation. I always feel better after I talk to you. It's a nice way to start my day.
Yes, I always love when we're able to just be true, that we really have a space now that is truly, truly authentic about the needs of the Black neurodivergent community, whether it be the families, the advocates, or the children. So it's always fun for us to come together for that collective unconsciousness that we have around this issue.
Thank you. And thank you all for tuning in for another episode of the Autism in Black podcast. Until we meet again.
If you haven't done so already, make sure to subscribe to our podcast so you can always be notified when a new episode drops. To get the resources shared on today's podcast and the show notes, make sure to go to autisminblack.org/podcast. Don't forget to share your takeaways from the show on your IG stories and Twitter using our official hashtag AIBpod so that we can find and share them. If you want to continue the conversation from today's episode, join our Autism in Black podcast Facebook community at facebook.com/group/AIBpod.